everyone, this is Rebecca Keppel. I'm here for Thermoweb, and Thermoweb is very excited to be working with Tailored Expressions this week. And Tailored Expressions is a stamp and die company. They make these adorable cling-mounted stamps that come with matching dies that I worked with, and they also make this Reach for the Stars border die, which is super cute, and I use that on this card. This card is super simple, so we're going to get through this one very quickly. This one had a few more steps, and so I do want to show you kind of how I worked through that as well. So we'll start with the border die, some Thermoweb peel and stick toner sheets, and some Thermoweb Deco foil, as well as my laminator. So let's get started on putting this card together. To start this card out, we're going to create some foiled cardstock. So if you have pieces that are of the toner paper that are already foiled, that's great. Then you can just die cut from those, and that's how I use up my scraps of toner paper. So this one is a sheet that I used for a previous electronic die cut, and so I just used this to create a couple more borders with the stars like that. So in order to create these foiled cardstock sheets, basically what you're going to do is cut a piece of the toner paper. This is the peel and stick, so it is self-adhesive. You're going to layer some foil on top, and you can send it through your laminator inside this kind of like parchment paper, which we use as a carrier sheet. And using this does help to keep it from getting wrinkled. If it wrinkles, then it won't cover on the part that the wrinkle is raised. So I have learned that although you can send it through your laminator without a carrier sheet, it really works best if you do. I have my laminator ready, and it's been warming up for quite a while, and I'm just going to send this through. And while it's doing that, I'm going to work on making a few more colors of foil match to the size of my toner. So I have that all set and ready to go as soon as the last one comes out. Okay, so this just came out of my laminator, so I'm just going to open up the carrier sheet here, and it's still warm. I'm going to give it a second to cool off, and while that's cooling off, I'm going to run the second color through the laminator. Like I said, my laminator's been on for a long time, so it's nice and hot. It's going to work the best that way. So we'll send my second color through, and while that's going through, let's take a look and see how we did here with the blue. So all I have to do is peel back, and I get a beautiful blue piece of foiled cardstock. So I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to die cut everything all at the same time once we have the next sheet ready. Okay, now the green has come out of the laminator. Again, I'm going to give it a second to cool. I'm going to save my carrier sheet for another project. Feels like it's cooling down, so I'm just going to peel this off. And now I have green, blue, and the scrap of purple that I can still fit at least one more border on. So now we're going to die cut these foiled pieces for our card. Okay, now that I have my foiled cardstock ready, I'm just going to die cut out the Tailored Expressions border die Reach for the Stars. So I'm going to just lay this on top of my foiled cardstock and send it through my manual die cut machine, just like I would any other paper or cardstock. So you can see the die cut through the foiled cardstock perfectly, and this is a sticker, so we'll be able to peel the backing off and add it to our card. So I'm going to do the same thing for the blue and the green, and then we'll put our card together. Okay, to assemble the card, it's pretty much as easy as peel and stick. So for this card, I used a white card base and then I cut out a blue card panel. I thought that the foiling would look really fun on black as well. It really kind of pops. So for this one, I cut out a piece of fun foam that's slightly smaller than my black card panel, and I'm going to use some Thermoweb Memory Runner XL to adhere that. The easiest way to do that is to always put the adhesive on paper, but I'll show you later that it is possible to do it on the foam as well. So my tape runner did run out. I just wanted to show you how quick and easy it is to pop a new one in. Here are the way the refills come, just like this. And once you open it up, all you have to do is figure out which direction it goes inside your runner, and it just pops in this way. And you can see that this little spot right here just sits right in there, and then you just close it up. So there's no winding, there's no, figuring out which direction, other than this is obviously this part of the tape runner. So this is a very simple one to fill. So then you're just gonna add a little bit more adhesive here, and we're gonna lay this right over the foam. And now again, I'm going to add some adhesive to the card base. And then again, we're just going to flip it over and line it up. And now we have a nice popped up card base. So from there, basically all we're going to do is layer our stars on top of our card base. So for this one, I used a smaller panel. So I did cut off 2 of the stars, and I just saved it for a future project. But for this one, I think it's kind of fun to have them hanging off a little bit. So I think we'll try that. Now, I find the best way to do this is to just start at an edge. These are pretty easy to remove. You can see how quickly those are just coming right off. So, and you can see also that when they do the strips, they cut them thirds down the toner paper. So sometimes when I'm die cutting, I end up having a strip right here, and I just have to remove that last little bit there. So I'm going to use this star border as my center and just lay that down. And it's so simple with the peel and stick, and we can always cut the edge if we'd like. And then I think I'm gonna do, let's see, should we do green this time or stick with blue? Let's stick with blue. So I'm just gonna do this for the rest of the borders. And with this last one, you can see that we essentially created our own foiled background for our card, which is really nice because you could do it in any color of foil that you have. You could do them all in one color. You could do them in red, white, and blue. Okay. So there's our background, and then you can see I've done the same sort of Let's Celebrate You. This is also from Tailored Expressions. It's from the birthday set that I'm going to use in the next card. And I stamped and heat embossed it in gold. And so we're just going to use some more Memory Runner and just add that right on top. And we're going to do it flush to the edge here. And then if we want, we can go along and just cut the stars that are hanging off. Or we can use a slightly larger envelope and just leave it as is, because it's kind of fun having them hang off the page. So that's so simple, so easy to create this really fun effect of a foiled background with a border die and the Thermoweb toner sheets and some Deco foils. So now let's start working on the next card. Okay, so like I mentioned, this card's a little more complicated, just a few more additional steps, just because you're creating the shaker and that can take a few more extra steps, but it's super fun, and it features the Tailored Expressions birthday set. It's got these cute stamps, some sentiments, and matching dies to cut out the little shapes. So to do this card, you can see I have a foiled background to my shaker window, and I also have a foiled card base. So this time, instead of foiling up the toner sheets and then die cutting, I'm going to die cut them first and then send them through the laminator with the toner sheets and the Deco foil, just to see if it makes any difference which way you do it. Okay, so I did want to show you this. I did decide to go back to my original method of creating the foiled cardstock and then die cutting. And the reason is this. So when I made this card panel that goes behind the shaker and I die cut it first, because it has a tiny little bit of embossed detail on the stitching and the little frame here, that is lower than this part of the toner sheet. So the foil doesn't always get all the way in there. So I do think it's better if you're gonna see it. For this, it doesn't matter because it's gonna be behind this shaker panel. But for this piece back here, I would definitely recommend that you run the toner sheet with the foil through the laminator first and then die cut it, because then you get this really great clean line where it's embossing right through the foiling. So that's what I'm gonna do for this, and then we'll die cut it together so you can see the difference. Okay, so I've run a different color through, but now you can see that when I peel off the cover, I get really great coverage here. And so when I die cut, which I'm going to do right now, okay, so when I take the die off and pop out this card panel, you can see that the detailing is all there and it's foiled, instead of having spots of black show through on the stitching and on the frame there. So I really like this method better. So now we're going to put a little bit more of the card together. So you can see that I've cut out of cardstock a card panel. I've also cut out 2 sheets of fun foam with the same die so that all 3 of these will be the same size. I'm going to put that rectangular die aside, and now I'm going to cut my window for my shaker. So I'm going to lay 1 layer of foam and the cardstock together, and I'm going to run those through my die cut machine. And I'm just looking to make sure that it's lined up the way that I want it. And I'm going to run it back and forth to make sure it cuts through both layers. And it has. So now I just need the 1 more piece of fun foam cut the same way. And in order to do that, I'm going to again lay my cardstock over the fun foam. I'm going to put the circle die right inside the cut and make sure everything is nice and lined up. And then I'm going to run this through my die cut machine as well. And now I have the 3 layers that I need, and now I just need the acetate for the window. So I've brought everything together that you need to assemble the shaker part of this card. So I have a card base, I have a panel that's going to go right over top, then I have the back of my shaker, which are these silver stars. Then I have 2 sheets of fun foam and a piece of acetate for the window, and then a panel to go on top, as well as some little shaker elements, my Therm memory runner, and my EK Success powder tool, which I just use on the inside of the foam to make sure that the stars don't stick. Okay, so what we can do is start from the bottom and work our way up. We can just remove the backing from this pink foil and line it up to our card base. And if the card base is a little too big, we can always trim that off at the very end. Next, we can assemble the next piece, which is removing the backing for the sticky on the stars. And we want to center that inside our pink foil. And remember, it doesn't matter that you can see some of the toner coming through because we are going to cover this up. This is just the base of our window. So next we need to add our first layer of foam. So to do that, I'm going to add some adhesive right on the foiling here. I'm going to go up the side, top, corner, down this side. And then I'm going to make sure to go around on the foam itself right inside the circles. So you can see if you go slowly like this, it is fine to put your adhesive right on the foam. It will stay. And this is to make sure that nothing sneaks out of your shaker. Okay. So now this first layer of foam is going to go right on top. And there's the first layer. Now, to make our shaker more interactive and be able to move around a lot more, I like adding 2 layers of the foam. So now we're going to have to go slow if you want the memory runner to work on the foam. So just make sure you get around all the little corners of your circle, or whatever shape your window is. You can do a heart, a star, whatever you like, a square. And then I'm going to try and put a little bit of adhesive on the back here. Just make sure I can line everything up. There we go. Okay, now we're going to put our second layer of foam. And you just have to really kind of carefully line everything up, otherwise you'll have things hanging out the edge. And finally, we're going to add our card layer right on top. And we're going to use cardstock because this will be able to stamp on, we'll be able to color on. But before we do that, we need to fill our window and we need to add our acetate. So before I like to fill the window, I like to use just a little bit of the EK Success powder tool right in the corners, just to make sure that nothing sticks and that there's no adhesive peeking out that's going to make the stars or whatever shaker elements you're using stick to the side. So I have some of these little iridescent stars from Pretty Pink Posh. I love using these. I'm going to put a ton of those in there. And they go really nicely with this silver star foil. Then for this card, I think I'm going to add some hearts. So I have this shaker that has a ton of different things in it. So we'll do some of those. And then maybe a few gold as well. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to put my window right on top. And I'm going to use my memory runner one more time here. And I know I'm picking up some of my shaker elements. It's that static. There we go. And you want to make sure you get at least a little bit of adhesive all over the outside here. And it's okay if some of these elements come off because we are going to be adhering the panel on top, so you won't see them. There we go. Okay, so here is the window. Just make sure that's adhered down really, really well. And now is the easy part. For the card panel, you can put the adhesive right on the back of the cardstock. and just adhere that right on top. And then you have an adorable shaker window. So now we're going to put the rest of the card together with the rest of the Tailored Expressions birthday stamps. Okay, so first we're going to stamp the sentiment right on the card panel here, and I have this sentiment from Tailored Expressions. It is Make a Wish, it's your birthday. Last time I used It's Your Birthday, Be Silly, so I thought I'd try something different. And first I held the stamps together underneath the window to make sure it would all fit, and then I stamped it on a scratch sheet of paper to make sure it kind of just looked good together like that. And I like the way that looks, so I'm going to ink up my stamps using VersaFine ink. And then I'm going to just straighten it underneath the window and stamp. And there we go, we have our sentiment ready to go. Now we're just going to stamp some of these characters, color them in, and die cut them, and add them to the window. So this time I thought it would be fun to try the candle and maybe the hat. So I am stamping these with Memento ink because I want to color them with Copic markers. So I'm just going to ink up the candle and stamp him right there, and ink up the hat. And I'll ink up the present just in case for some reason something doesn't want to fit right. It's always good to have more characters than not enough. Okay, so now we have them all stamped. Now I'm going to color them in. Okay, so I have an assortment of Copic markers and some Wink of Stella that I'm going to use as well. So I'm just going to color these in, and I'm not going to get too crazy. I'm not going to do a lot of blending or anything like that. I just want them to be cute and colored in. And you can see that I'm using both Spectrum Noir and Copics. These are both alcohol markers, so you can use them together. The Spectrum Noir do blend, just like the Copics do. They are alcohol based. So on this larger area, I am going to do a little bit of blending, but nothing too wild and crazy. Just have fun with it. And I do have a gold Wink of Stella. I'm going to use that on the candle flame here. And then I'm going to use the clear Wink of Stella right on the candle. And I love these because they add just a touch of shine. It's not a ton of bulky glitter or anything, but just a little bit of shimmer. Again, for the pom-pom, I'm going to use the gold. And for the hat, I'm going to use the clear. Okay, and I think I'm good with these two characters. So I am going to just take a little bit of washi tape and grab my coordinating dies and line them up. And just tape them down so that when I run them through my die cut machine, they don't move around on me. Okay, I'm going to cut them out and then we can put them all together. So for this card, the way that the sentiment worked out, it was longer on top and shorter on the bottom. So it was fun to have one character down by the bottom and one character up by the window. But the way that this sentiment works, it's short on top and longer on the bottom. So I think they both kind of work right to the side here. So I'm just going to use a little more of my trusty tape runner. This is my Thermoweb Memory Runner XL again. And I'm just going to add adhesive to the back of these die cut pieces. And there we have another fun shaker card made with Tailored Expressions stamps and dies and Thermoweb adhesives. So you can see the Tailored Expressions stamps and dies play really well with the fun Thermoweb adhesives. You can make lots of different cards and projects with them. And although the shaker card is a few extra steps, it does result in a lot of fun. The effect is really great. So I hope you have enjoyed seeing the two of these work together, and I hope you'll consider using them next time in your projects. Thanks so much for stopping by.